24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bawa. An action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top headlines you need to know. The United States will double its tariffs on imported steel and aluminium starting Wednesday. The move marks the latest salvo in Trump's trade wars, bringing levies on both metals from 25% to 50%. Ukraine says it's used underwater explosives to damage a bridge linking Russia to the illegally annexed Crimean Peninsula, Kyiv's second high-profile operation against Moscow in just days. The proposed free trade agreement between India and the European Union is likely to be finalized soon, a French minister has said. Donald Trump will attend the upcoming North Atlantic Treaty Organization Summit, the NATO summit at The Hague, the White House has confirmed, as the US president seeks to rally the alliance's members to step up defense spending. Indian astronaut group captain Shubhanshu Shukla will have to wait longer for his journey to space. The liftoff for the Axiom 4 mission has been postponed by 2 days and will now take place on the 10th of June. Well, our big focus, just imagine waking up to find your raw material costs have actually doubled overnight. You've got containers at sea, workers on the floor, customers waiting, and suddenly everything's on hold. Well, that's not a corporate disaster movie plot. It's real life in Trump's America as we speak. The US president has signed an order doubling tariffs on steel and aluminium imports from 25% to 50%. The move hikes import taxes on the metals, key inputs, and everything from cars to canned food for the second time since March. And no, this isn't just a number in policy paper. This is actually the kind of punch that can knock down small manufacturers, alter trade equations, and trigger retaliations across the globe. As you are well aware, steel and aluminium go into everything, whether it's cars, food cans, satellites, defense hardware, even that fancy packaging on your imported Swiss chocolates. But President Trump says this is about saving American jobs. I'll tell you where the twist lies. The US is the second largest steel importer in the world after the EU. Canada, Brazil, Mexico, South Korea, they're the ones shipping it in. And critics say this move is less about make America great again and more about make global trade chaotic again. Well, Trump did carve out a special exemption, you must note, for the UK, citing ongoing trade talks, which actually raises another question. Is Trump using tariffs as leverage or favor currency? My colleague Maha Siddiqui has been tracking the latest updates for us. She joins us live at the moment. Maha, it seems like it's one punch after the other, as many argue. Always the question with Mr. Trump seems to be, is this a tactic or is this a long-term plan? But Canada feeling the blow the most amongst all the allies?
Absolutely, because Canada is the largest supplier of aluminium and steel to the United States. Over the last 1 year, Canada supplied 22% of the steel to the United States. And this is a punch in its stomach coming yet again, considering that there was already a 25% tariff that was announced by the Trump administration on aluminium and steel. And this is a matter that Canada also took to the World Trade Organization for a dispute resolution. And now a 25% further tariff on it is going to heavily impact Canada. In fact, the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, has already suggested that there should be a retaliatory tariff to this. He said that Canada can no longer be kicked around by the United States, and this message needs to go out clearly to Donald Trump. Significantly, this also comes just 10 days ahead of the G7 summit, which is going to be hosted by Canada and for which President Donald Trump will be traveling to Alberta in Canada. So all these issues correlate at this moment, also at a juncture, Parmeshwar, when Canada is already negotiating an economic and security agreement with the United States. Those conversations are already on. And in the midst of all this, a 25% further tariff on aluminium and steel is going to gravely impact Canada. But the impact will also be seen on the US consumers. And this is something that is constantly being pointed out to experts. As per some reports, there's already a 16% increase. In fact, Doug Ford said this, that 16% increase in prices of anything that has steel and aluminum for the consumers in the United States, with a 25% tariff. And now this has been doubled by the US president, who signed an executive order, and this will go into effect at 12 midnight Eastern time.
As always, Maha, thank you so much for joining us with the lowdown. Well, you must note that the US is a critical market for Indian steel and aluminum as well. And the doubling of duties, it actually threatens to cripple exports worth billions of dollars. We'll keep a close eye on all the reactions and how the market is reacting as well. For now, let's turn our attention to the other big story we're tracking. Ukraine has said it's used underwater explosives to damage a bridge linking Russia to the illegally annexed Crimean Peninsula. This is actually Kyiv's second high-profile operation against Moscow in just a few days. The strike, the third attack on the bridge since the start of the war, comes after a sophisticated Ukrainian drone assault on parked Russian bombers, as we covered. And June has quickly become an ill-fated month for Russia's armed forces, experts argue, projecting that Moscow is on track to suffer its millionth casualty this month as well. But Russian President Vladimir Putin appears to face little domestic pressure to end the war because he has used ideological militarization. That's what experts and geopolitical watchers are calling it. So he's used ideological militarization to convince most Russians they are waging war against an imperialistic NATO and that there is glory in death.
The president does not want to see this war prolonged. He wants the fight to stop, he wants people to stop dying, and he wants this to be solved at the negotiating table. The reason he is so deeply involved and has spent so much time and effort on this war is because he hates to see people dying. Again, these are not Americans that are being killed. These are Russians and these are Ukrainians. This is a war very far away. But this president truly cares about peace, and that's what he wants to see.
Meanwhile, a Ukrainian government delegation arrived in Washington to discuss military support and sanctions against Russia just a day after Kyiv and Moscow held their second round of peace talks. But at the moment, Putin's vanity project has suffered quite the blow, as Ukraine said that it used underwater explosives to damage a bridge linking Russia to the illegally annexed Crimean Peninsula. This strike, which you see dramatic visuals of on your screens at the moment, is the third attack on the bridge since the start of the war, and it comes after a sophisticated Ukrainian drone assault on parked Russian bombers. Experts, in fact, argue that June has quickly become an ill-fated month for Russia's armed forces. In fact, experts have also projected that Moscow is on track to suffer its millionth casualty this month. A grim milestone. But for an expert view on the current state of affairs, John Rossamondo joins us live on NDTV. John, really appreciate your time as always. For months, this bridge has been called Putin's vanity project and a military artery. How big a strategic blow would you say this is then for Russia's logistics and also Russia's morale?
Well, I see it's just a matter of it's a tactical victory for the Ukrainians. I mean, it's not really much of a big win for them. I mean, they've put a pinpricks against the Russians. I mean, the thing is, the Ukrainians still do not control 1/3 of the country. The Russians do. As long as the Ukrainians cannot roll back Russian control of the eastern third of Ukraine, none of this really matters.
John, then from a tactical lens, are these precision underwater attacks the new frontier of asymmetric warfare in the Russia-Ukraine war?
I mean, it's it's more of a morale booster for the Ukrainians than it is any sort of like real strategic victory. I mean, you might disrupt a few Russian trains or trucks across the bridge, but the Russians just go back and rebuild. So as long as the Russians have the ability to recoup minor losses, it's not really a victory for the Ukrainians.
How do such targeted strikes also complicate ceasefire diplomacy or peace talks? Are we watching this erosion of space for negotiation as we speak?
Well, the thing is that all the negotiation is just window dressing at this point. I mean, Vladimir Putin has no interest in peace. The Ukrainians are just doing, pinprick attacks to obtain, morale boosters on their home front, and maybe to, get, the Russians to, talk about the things in peace talks. But I don't see any real value from a strategic standpoint in, what the Ukrainians are doing either in the peace talks or on the battlefield.
Well, John, as always, thank you so much for joining us with your views. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates. But whether it's from underwater drone strikes to long-range aerial hits, many are now questioning whether Ukraine is changing the rules of the 21st century warfare. And are we entering an era of invisible wars? Well, we'll keep a close eye on all the key developments with our experts. For now, let's turn our attention to Syria. Well, Israel has threatened to retaliate against Syria after the latest missile attack. Israel said it had launched strikes on weapons belonging to Syria hours after reports that 2 projectiles had been fired from Syria into Israel on Tuesday. The Israeli army has said that 2 rockets were fired from Syria into open areas in the Israel-controlled Golan Heights on Tuesday, marking the first time a strike has been launched towards Israel from Syrian territory since the fall of former Syrian President Bashar Assad in December. Meanwhile, Syrian state media is reporting that Israel shelled the western countryside of Syria's Daraa province after this rocket launch. For the latest updates, let's go across to my colleague Mohammad Gazali, who's been keeping a close eye on all the key developments. Ghazali, what details can you disclose to our viewers as we speak?
See, as you rightly pointed out, this was the first attack by from Syrian territory into the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, and why it has come as a surprise for Israel as well, because Israeli Prime Minister Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu was quoted saying that Israel was responsible for the fall of Bashar al-Assad regime in Syria. Also, the new Prime Minister of Syria, the new President of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, he has been also quoted saying many a times that he wants good relations with Israel. Now, US has lifted most of the sanctions, or slowly they're lifting sanctions on Syria on the pretext or promise of Syria joining the Abraham Accords or normalizing relations with Israel. So it has come as a surprise to all the parties there that who are those elements responsible for these rockets being fired into Israeli territory from Syria. And this is also going to pose a big challenge for Israel because it has already weakened Hezbollah in Lebanon and other militias in the region. So this new entity or any new element, if the attack has come, it is still being probed. And Israel also retaliated by shelling into the villages of Syrian territory as well as with aerial strikes.
Gazali, as always, thanks so much for joining us with the latest details. Meanwhile, let's turn our attention now to the India and UK high-level talks that took place in Delhi. Well, in a significant diplomatic development, Sir Oliver Robbins, the Permanent Under-Secretary at the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, arrived in India to review the progress of the UK-India Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. During his visit, Sir Oliver met India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri in New Delhi for the annual UK-India Foreign Office consultations. And that meeting marked a crucial milestone in the bilateral relationship between our two nations, with both sides welcoming the significant breakthroughs achieved across the entire structure of the partnership since the last consultations were held in London. One of the major highlights of the partnership is the historic trade deal announced between the two countries, which is expected to boost economic ties and open up new avenues for cooperation. Also, a key aspect was the inaugural Strategic Exports and Tech Cooperation Dialogue, which aimed at building mutual understanding of systems and agreeing areas for future cooperation on key sectors such as tech and defense. Meanwhile, India and the European Union are now aiming for a comprehensive free trade agreement rather than an interim deal, and is working against a tight deadline to conclude it. Stating that the plan is to sign a full-scale FTA, an official said, a lot of progress has been made in the negotiations and only some loose ends need to be tied up. The situation, though, remains dynamic. But on Tuesday, the French Minister of Foreign Trade said he is pretty optimistic about the fact that we can have an agreement in the coming weeks or coming months. He stressed that the deal is because we have to showcase to the world that we do believe in trade, in freer trade, and not in a trade war. Moving on, India will continue to experience strong and broadly stable economic growth, the OECD has said, while pointing out that global economic growth is slowing more than expected as the tariff war takes a bigger toll on the US economy. Now, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development projects says that India is to remain one of the world's largest growing economies in FY26, with its GDP growth forecast at 6.3%. Listen in to the finer details.
A very good morning. I'm Parati Bhanod and I'm currently standing at the headquarters of the OECD in Paris. The OECD is essentially the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and as of Tuesday they've released their Economic Outlook report. Now, there are two interesting takeaways from this Economic Outlook report. One pertaining to the global growth projections, and the second pertaining to India's growth projections. If we talk about the global growth projections in terms of real GDP terms, the Economic Outlook report for the OECD 25-26 says that the world economy is expected to witness a fall in growth. There's expected to be a slowdown from 3.3% in 2024 to about 2.9% in 2025 and 2026. This is the global forecast, expected to be slower, expected to not be as good as it was in 2024. The second big takeaway that is there from this report is with regards to India. As far as G20 countries are concerned, the report says that India is expected to record the highest real GDP growth, not just for the year that has gone by, 2024, but also for the years ahead, which is 2025 and 2026. In 2025, India is expected to witness a growth of 6.3% as far as the real GDP numbers are concerned, and in 2026, India is expected to witness a growth of 6.4%. So for 3 consecutive years, the OECD predicts that amongst G20 countries, India is going to be one of the top performers, and these are the main takeaways from the OECD Outlook report.
Well, in other news, Elon Musk blasted Donald Trump's legacy legislation, casting it as a bloated mess. But our sources have informed us that he's actually frustrated at failing to win favorable treatment in the bill and the administration at large. Elon Musk's post on X calling Trump's big beautiful bill a disgusting abomination of pork spending blindsided Trump's team when it was posted during a White House press briefing and signaled the escalating tension that shadowed Elon Musk's departure from government last week. I'll tell you why this is so significant. Elon Musk had criticized Trump's signature bill before, but before Tuesday afternoon, his rhetoric had been far more restrained and muted. Now, he's gone all out. By the way, Donald Trump will attend the upcoming NATO summit, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization summit at The Hague, the White House has confirmed, as the US president seeks to rally the alliance's members to step up defense spending. Trump, by the way, has said that he wants members of the alliance to spend 5% of GDP on the military in what would amount to a substantial increase from current levels for many nations. But the June 24th and 5th summit comes shortly after the G7 leaders are expected to meet in Canada, setting up a pair of high-profile meetings where allies are expected to discuss progress on brokering a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia as well. In big news just coming in, the FBI chief, Kash Patel, has claimed to have arrested a Chinese national in the United States for allegedly smuggling a dangerous biological pathogen into the United States. In a social media post on X, Kash Patel has said that Yunqing Jian expressed loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party and had received funding from the Chinese government for similar work. But to quote Kash Patel's tweet, he said that the biological pathogen was actually a fungus. It can cause a disease called head blight, a disease of wheat, barley, maize and rice, causing significant health issues in both humans as well as livestock. It is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year. This is what Mr. Patel has added. You must also note that Jian's boyfriend, Zunyong Liu, who works at a university in China, was also named in this complaint and faces charges. Gazali has been tracking the latest for us. He joins us live at the moment. Gazali, the FBI chief, claiming to arrest a Chinese national for allegedly smuggling a dangerous biological pathogen into the US?
Yeah, certainly. And Department of Justice has issued a statement besides Mr. Kash Patel saying the similar stuff, alleging that these Chinese national, one of the Chinese national and his boyfriend, they both have been charged. The Chinese national who was working in the University of Michigan has been accused of smuggling this deadly fungus, which can cause head blight and largely it can impact the livestock as well as human beings there. So it's a serious kind of charge which will also impact the US-China relations, as we have seen that both the parties are struggling to strike a trade deal as well, because recently Mr. Trump also accused China of going back on its trade deal with the United States. And we also know the larger power struggle between the two superpowers. And this will certainly bolster those allegations between Russia and China and US.
So much for joining us with the latest. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest developments for you. Slipping into a quick commercial break. Back in a moment. Well, the outline of the US offer to Iran in their high-stakes negotiations over Tehran's nuclear program is starting to become clearer, but whether any deal is on the horizon remains as cloudy as ever. The Trump administration is proposing an arrangement that will actually allow Iran to continue enriching uranium at low levels, while the US and other countries work out a more detailed plan intended to block Iran's path to a nuclear weapon but give it access to fuel for new nuclear power plants. The proposal amounts to a bridge between the current situation in which Iran is rapidly producing near-bomb-grade uranium and the US goal of Iran enriching no uranium at all on its soil. Listen in to what the White House had to say.
The president made his position very clear on Truth Social last night. In fact, it couldn't be any more clear, and I would reiterate that's his position. Special Envoy Witkoff sent a very detailed and acceptable proposal to the Iranian regime that the president hopes they will accept, and if not, they will face grave consequences, as the president himself has reiterated.
In other news, the US Food and Drug Administration has said that it had launched a generative AI tool, ELSA, that's aimed at improving efficiency across its operations, including scientific reviews. The agency said it is already using ELSA to expedite clinical protocol reviews, shorten the time needed for scientific evaluations, and pinpoint high-priority inspection targets. Moving on, Meta is looking to nuclear power to sustain its artificial intelligence push. The tech giant struck a 20-year deal with Constellation Energy to revive an aging Illinois nuclear plant that was once slated for closure. This move marks big tech's latest commitment to nuclear as the industry hunts for electrons to power AI data centers. Microsoft is rebooting a dormant reactor in Pennsylvania, and Google is investing in mini reactor technology. US President Donald Trump has embraced the sector, recently signing a raft of executive orders to speed up reaction construction. But as experts in the field say, love Donald Trump or hate him, his administration is the most pro-nuclear in American history, and there's no second place. An Indian astronaut group captain, Shubhanshu Shukla, will have to wait just a little longer for his launch into space because the liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket has been pushed forward by 2 days, and now it's set to lift off on the 10th of June at 5:52 p.m. India time.
Every Bharatvasi to join us, participate, engage, and dream boldly about a future that is exciting. Our crew has chosen a special zero-gravity indicator for this mission, a swan. In Indian culture, the swan is the vehicle of goddess Saraswati, symbolizing wisdom, learning, and purity. It is said to have the rare ability to separate milk from water, a symbolism that is a powerful reminder of discernment in an age of distraction. To carry this symbol is to carry the essence of our mission: pursuit of knowledge, clarity of purpose, and grace under pressure.
On that note, thank you so much for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest updates for you. Do stay tuned.